This is a presentation on police powers in England and Wales, UK. These are the rules regarding stopping searches of suspects within the UK. So what is a stop and search? A stop and search is the powers given to police officers in the UK that will allow them to stop groups or individuals that they believe to be displaying antisocial behaviour or are somehow linked to criminal activity. Police are allowed to follow specific rules and guidelines regarding stop and searches, and it is outlined in many legislations such as PACE, which is Police and Criminal Evidence Act in 1984, or another example being the Misuse of Drugs Act in 1971. The importance of these legislations is to make sure that police aren't entering bias or that they're not abusing the power that was given to them. PACE. PACE allows police officers to stop individuals that are acting suspicious and search them if they believe them to be carrying illegal contraband such as drug or weapons. Police, however, cannot search individuals without the proper reasonable grounds. They need to have a reason or a cause to be able to search people, meaning that they just can't search people just because they feel like it. They need intel, an observation or belief that they are involved in criminal activity. This is done to make sure that police powers aren't being abused and that they're used effectively and correctly. PACE also outlines that officers must follow procedures during stop and searches. This is done in many ways, one of them being that officers are required to show their name and badge numbers and must clearly explain the reasons for their searches and the legal basis. They must also inform individuals of why they're being detained and their rights. So these are the rules relating to entry, searches and seizures with and without a warrant, and a lot of this falls under PACE. So authorised warrants. This is warrants that police officers have gained by going through the court system. And again, it is under PACE and other related legislations that rules regarding entry, searches and seizures are outlined. The guidelines, and including the guidelines differentiating between searches conducted with a warrant and those without. So separating the things that separate. And in order for a police officer to obtain a warrant for searches or warrants, they must go through the court system by applying through the magistrate's court and prove reasonable grounds that they believe that there is criminal activity ongoing at this event, at this location, or an individual is participating in criminal activities. And the search must be conducted in a reasonable, unbiased manner and done within a time frame, usually done during the day, but exceptions are made during the night. Police officers are also required to produce a copy of the warrant to the occupants on the premises. Unauthorised warrants. And many things allow police officers to search premises without warrants, and these are given that certain circumstances have to allow this to happen. So police officers can't just search premises without warrant and say that, it's because they wanted to or they felt that something was going on. But the reasons that the reasons police have access to be able to search without warrants is, say, if occupants have given their consent for the premises to be searched. If the consent has been given, then police are able to search the property without any issues or facing any legal blowback. And another reason is extenuating circumstances. So if the police believe that they need to react fast in order to make sure that evidence isn't being destroyed, or an act of violence may be carried out. Unless they act quick, then they are allowed to um, go through without a warrant and search or arrest. And once a person has been arrested, police hold the right to search the individual and the surrounding areas for drugs, weapons, or any other evidence relating to the arrest. So PACE, question of subjects. Police are required to follow very specific guidelines during interrogation of suspects in order to provide reliable evidence for prosecutors, such as informing suspects that they have the right to remain silent and the right to refuse to answer questions, and it can't be used against them in court. PACE also allows suspects the right to have legal advice and representation while held at a police station. This is done in order to make sure suspects are treated fairly and justly. Police are also required to make sure that suspects are aware of their right to legal representation and legal advice. Questioning may also be paused while suspects seek legal representation and advice from solicitors. Now, for police officers to be able to obtain confessions, they must follow very specific guidelines to avoid allegations or coercion or foul play. They must make sure that they obtain the confessions in a clean way and must be able to provide evidence of this. And this may include recording the interviews for future referrals, and if a confession is found to be gotten in an unconventional method, it may be deemed inadmissible by the court. And regarding adults and children, special actions must be taken in place to ensure fairness on the PACE. Both must be accompanied by responsible adults such as parents, social workers, or appropriate adults. And under PACE, vulnerable adults are people that suffer from mental illness or disabilities, learning disabilities such as autism. So police must take care while investigating such people and making sure that they understand everything that is pushed in front of them. The same is for children, to make sure that children under the age of 18, that is anyone that is classed as a child, that they are understanding their rights and the implications of their actions are presented in a way that allows them to be able to understand. So Section 60 orders. Another common legislation is Section 60 orders. Section 60 orders allows police the powers to stop and search without any reasonable grounds in specific areas. Now, this only occurs in areas where there's a high crime rate, for example, and these orders are given in order to prevent crime, or if an area is holding a large event such as a festival. Section 60 orders are effective in the prevention of crime. There are concerns of abuse of power and bias by the police, though, through this method. So now I'll be discussing and evaluating criticisms of stop and search powers regarding ethnic minorities. So although stop and searches are beneficial in crime prevention, it still has many of the public believing that stop and searches are used for racial profiling and discrimination, and statistics given from the Home Office support this, showing that black individuals have a much higher chance of being detained for searches than their white counterparts, and this has led to concerns over the fairness of the police system and justice system, and whether they're doing all they can to prevent this. So, in order to contend with these concerns, the UK government requires police forces to record and publish all data from stop and searches, therefore giving the public access to these records. A crucial case of racial profiling stemming from a stop and search was the case of Mark Duggan in 2011, and it was a pivotal moment in UK history, bringing to light the corruption and abuse that came from stop and searches. Mark Duggan was a 29-year-old black male that was shot and killed in Tottenham by the police on the 4th of August 2011. As a result of his death, protests and riots erupted all over London, which then spread to other cities, leaving the country questioning the powers of stop and searches. Were they too great, or were they unfair and unjust? In the case of Duggan, he was travelling in a taxi in Tottenham, and the police had gathered intelligence which linked Duggan to a firearm. The circumstances around the stop and search with Duggan were shaky from the initiation. Police accounts of the events that transpired was that Duggan was approached by the police while in a taxi, and following a confrontation, he was shot and killed by the police, with them claiming that he was armed and posed a threat to them. However, eyewitness accounts and further investigations into the matter proved that the alleged firearm was thrown away by Duggan moments before the shooting, which led to inconsistencies in the police versions of events, questioning whether police misconduct had taken place. The use of such lethal force led to public outcry, fueled by anger and frustrations over an apparently biased system and police brutality. Riots. The use of such lethal force led to public outrage and was fueled by anger and the frustrations over the biased system. And communities, mainly black, felt that stop and searches were used only to target specific ethnic minorities. They pronounced these underlying issues and sparked a national debate on whether stop and searches were just and fair. Regarding Mark Duggan's case, the Independent Police Complaints Commission put an investigation into the circumstances regarding Duggan's death. The purpose of this investigation was to determine whether the police had acted fair and professionally and done their job, or whether police misconduct had taken place and whether disciplinary action needed to take place. The case took 3 years, and eventually the investigation yielded was that the police had failed in many aspects on their part, such as poor communication among themselves and failure in de-escalating the situation. But however, on the January 2014, jury ruled that Duggan had been lawfully killed, which concluded the matter, and this was an unsatisfactory result in the eyes of many in the public. The evaluation. Although stop and search powers are beneficial in potential crime prevention, it is very easy for abuse of power to come into play depending on individual police officers' views and biases. So if a police officer has personal views of, say, racism or bias towards a gender or race, it will be hard to differentiate the power given to them and able to act fairly and in a reasonable manner. In light of Duggan's death, many activists have argued for stricter guidelines and that for stop and searches to be always supervised in order to ensure fairness and to prevent another case like Mark Duggan's.